friend. You're listening to The Sustainable Bodyworker, the podcast for massage therapists who want to grow thriving, purpose-led businesses without the burnout. Here we talk about nervous system aligned business strategy, pricing that makes sense, client work that doesn't deplete you, and how to build a career that actually supports your life. I'm your host, Gretchen Pop, massage therapist, mentor, educator, and recovering overachiever. Let's get into it. Hey friends, welcome back to the Sustainable Bodyworker Podcast. I'm recording this one from a place of deep honesty and love because I don't think we talk about this enough. So many massage therapists are in pain and we've kind of normalized it like it's part of the job, like you're supposed to push through. Like the only answer is another modality or another tool or shifting in one way or another so your hands don't have to be on all these bodies all the time, right? And yes, technique and body mechanics matter. Don't get me wrong, tools can help. But what I want to talk about today is the bigger picture. The way our nervous systems aren't supported, the way we're not feeding ourselves in a way that actually supports this work, the way that we don't have space for self-care, because we're taking care of everyone else while also running a business. So if you've been feeling like you are right at that breaking point, like you love your work with clients, but your body and brain are waving a white flag, this episode is for you. I'm going to walk you through why this is happening, what's really underneath it, and what needs to change if you want to keep doing this work long term without sacrificing yourself. And I'm also going to be very clear about something. You don't need more pressure. You need a container. You need support. You need a path that actually works and supports you under stress. Which is why before I dive in, I want you to know, in case you haven't heard yet, Founders pricing for the Sustainable Bodyworker membership is open until March 8th. And when you join, you get a one-on-one session with me where we figure out which track inside the membership is the right one for you. So you're not guessing, you're not trying a strategy that maybe isn't the right part of the practice for you right now, right? We'll work on this together, whether you need more nervous system support with pricing and boundaries, or if you're ready to start building leverage with online courses or high-level client programs, or just getting help in one way or another, we map it out together. And if that sounds like what you've been craving, the link is in the show notes. All right, let's talk about why so many massage therapists are struggling and what actually fixes it. I want to start this episode really carefully, because the topic I'm about to talk about can feel incredibly charged, and the last thing I want to do is body shame anyone or oversimplify something that is deeply complex and deeply personal. When I first put out a call asking other massage therapists what they would want to talk about on this podcast, almost a year ago when I was thinking about starting this in the first place. And I expressed I especially wanted to talk about burnout and sustainability, right? I had so many thoughtful responses. I was actually really grateful for the conversations that unfolded because it helped me premise a lot of the episodes in last season. And one comment in particular stuck with me. A male educator made a blanket statement about how unhealthy and overweight a large portion of the massage therapy profession is. And listen, I understand why that comment landed hard for a lot of people. It landed hard for me too. Not because there isn't some truth buried in it, but because statements like that tend to completely miss the root issue. And when we miss the root, we end up blaming the individual instead of looking at the system. So I want to be really clear. This episode is not about willpower. It's not about discipline, and it's absolutely not about shaming bodies. I have lived in a body that has struggled for most of my life. I was obese as a child. I've dealt with hormonal imbalances, thyroid issues, autoimmune disease, chronic pain, fibromyalgia, all the things. If you want the fuller version of that story, I share it on another episode and I'll link it in the show notes. But I want you to know, I get this. And because I get it, because I've lived it, I want to talk about what's actually happening underneath the surface for so many body workers. Here's what I believe is really going on. We are in a profession that requires us to be deeply attuned, slow, present, nourishing, regulated. We hold space for other people all day long, emotionally, physically, energetically. And instead of applying those skills to ourselves first,
we oftentimes apply them everywhere else. We apply them for our clients, for our families, our children, partners, our communities. And we do this inside a larger system, a capitalistic business structure that already doesn't leave much room for real self care for anyone, regardless of your profession. So by the time we get to ourselves, we are already cared out. This is especially true for women. We are socially programmed to be caretakers, to be people pleasers, to put others first, and then we layer on client care, business ownership, parenting, household labor, emotional labor. It's a lot. And I want to say this clearly. The fact that so many massage therapists manage to do all of that for years is actually incredible. But here's the reframe that changed everything for me. Because we are this hub of sorts, we're this hub of care for so many others, we actually have a responsibility to take care of ourselves first. Not as a luxury, not when there's time, not when everything else is handled and then there's space for it, but as the foundation. Because the moment that hub breaks, everything else collapses with it. And the tricky part is, we already know this. We tell our clients this all the time, right? Self-care isn't optional. You can't pour from an empty cup. You got to take care of yourself first. Put on your own oxygen mask first before helping others, right? We all know those. And yet, so many of us are super two-faced about this. And it's not intentional. It's just unconscious. We preach it and then we don't live it. It's not because we don't care, but because something deeper is getting in the way. And that's what we're going to talk about next.
Hey friend, quick pause in the episode because I have to share something that's made a huge impact on both my practice and the work I teach inside my courses. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you probably remember the teal cups I started out with. Those were iconic in my early days of teaching cupping therapy. But here's the thing I learned the hard way. Not all silicone cups are created equal. I started noticing huge inconsistencies between sets, cups that discolored fast, sharp edges that irritated my client's skin, and it just wasn't cutting it for the level of work I was doing. And in 2020, I found Global Cupping, and I've never looked back. Their cups are hands down the clearest, smoothest, and most consistent silicone cups I've ever used, and I've tried a ton. The difference in quality is immediately noticeable. These cups stay clear even after repeated disinfection, and they're built to stand up to high-level sanitation protocols, something I insist on teaching in my neuromuscular cupping therapy trainings. What I also love is the customizability. I can mix and match sizes in a set, no more stockpiling a bunch of cups I never use, and their silicone facial cups are my absolute go-to now for jaw work. No more rubber bulbs on the glass cups to worry about disintegrating, just easy to clean, durable tools that are comfortable for both the client and the therapist. In my own approach, I combine cupping with movement, massage, and retraining at the neuromuscular junction. And that means I need cups that can move with the body, grip well, and feel safe and smooth on sensitive tissue. These silicone cups, especially the 55 hardness to start with, are perfect for that. And for chronic pain clients, especially those with nervous system dysregulation, the ability to glide, pause, and work in dynamic ways is key to breaking pain cycles. Plus, their customer service, impeccable. I'm a stickler for this. I've had questions, students have had questions, and they're always quick, professional, and just genuinely kind. It makes a really big difference. So whether you're brand new to cupping or you're refining your technique, this is the gear I recommend. It's an investment in your practice that pays off in results, ease of use, and your client's comfort. Use code NEURO at checkout for 20% off your first order at globalcupping.com. All right, let's get back to the episode.
So, I want to take you back to the beginning of my career for a moment because I think this is where a lot of the disconnect starts. I was working in a high volume franchise clinic. I was very young. I was motivated. I wanted to be good at this. I wanted to help people just like all of us do. And I was working as many hours as I possibly could. And at one point, I was doing 7 massages a day. And here's the part that still makes me pause when I think about it. I was falling asleep during my sessions. If I even sat down for just a moment, my body would just shut off. I was just 20 years old when this is happening. I was also drinking a very full Mountain Dew and a 5-hour energy before every shift just to make it through the day, and I was still crashing hard by the last few sessions. And at the time, I didn't see this as a problem. I saw it as just what I needed to do to survive. And that's the thing I really want to name here. So many of the unhealthy habits we see in this profession aren't moral failures, they are adaptations. We go for sugar, caffeine, processed snacks, we skip meals even. Those things give you a fast jolt of energy when you have 5 minutes between clients and no real break. They help you stay available, they help you get through the shift, but they're not sustainable. And when you're young, your body can hold out for a while. You don't always see the consequences right away, but eventually they do show up. Maybe as anxiety, panic attacks, chronic fatigue, pain flares, autoimmune symptoms. For me, panic and anxiety came first. Fibromyalgia came just a little bit later, not far behind. And none of that happened because I didn't care about my health. It happened because I was prioritizing being there for everyone else inside a system that rewarded overwork and under resourcing. And here's another layer I want to speak to, especially if you're listening and thinking, but I'm already doing good things for my body and it still hurts and I'm still tired, right? I know so many body workers who drink their water, they stretch, move their bodies, they try to eat well, and they still feel exhausted. They're still getting inflamed. They're stuck in cycles of weight gain, hormone imbalance, and pain in one way or another. And if that's you, I want to say this clearly. Please stop blaming yourself. When you start making changes, when you begin taking better care of yourself, or you've been on a good path for a while, it's actually very common for something to come up, whether it's an injury or an illness, a flare, a setback that makes it feel like you're failing or doing it wrong. I don't see that as failure. I see it as your system encountering change and a less resourced version of you trying to keep things the same. I'll share something really vulnerable with you here. Right now, I'm learning how to roller skate. It's something that's really fun and makes me feel alive. And I'm also getting back into working out after a long break caused by a pretty serious ankle injury. And just the other day, right as I'm on the edge of a big personal breakthrough, actually, my ankle started hurting out of nowhere. I didn't fall, I didn't twist it, just pain, really severe pain. And I don't believe that's random. I believe that when we move toward expansion, old protective patterns show up, sometimes in the body, to slow us down, not to punish us, but to keep us safe in familiar territory. And I'm not telling you to push through pain, and I definitely don't want you to ignore injury. What I want you to do is respond with curiosity and compassion instead of shame, because awareness alone doesn't change behavior. Knowing what to do isn't the same as being able to do it, especially when your subconscious is scared of change. And that's where we need support that goes way deeper than the myth of willpower. So, this is the part where I want us to just slow down a little bit because one of the most damaging beliefs I see in this profession is the idea that knowing better should automatically mean doing better. We are highly educated people. We understand anatomy, physiology, pain patterns, stress responses. We see cause and effect in the human body every single day. So when we struggle to apply that same care to ourselves, the shame can get really loud, right? What's wrong with me? Why can't I just do the thing? I know better, so why am I still eating at Taco Bell? That's me, by the way. Here's what I fundamentally believe: awareness is not the work. Awareness points the compass, but it doesn't move the ship. No sailor has ever set out to sea, pointed the compass, and said, "Cool, I'm done." They set the sails, they work with the wind, they adjust course when conditions change. And that's what's missing for so many of us. We have the awareness, we have the knowledge, but our subconscious, the part of us that learned very early on how to survive by taking care of others first, is not on board yet. That part of you learned safety through service, through being needed, through pushing past your own signals. So when you start prioritizing yourself, even in small ways, that part can get scared and it will do whatever it can to restore the familiar. That might look like self sabotage. It might look like sudden exhaustion. It might look like a flare or an injury or an emotional crash. And it's not because you're doing something wrong, it's because you're doing something new. And instead of meeting that moment with force or frustration, what if we met it with compassion? What if we stopped saying, "Why can't I get it together?" and instead started asking, "What part of me is afraid right now? and what does it need to feel safe. And I want to share why hypnotherapy became such a pivotal tool for me when this creeped up for me, and why I now integrate it so deeply into the work that I offer body workers. Before hypnotherapy, I had spent so many years learning everything I could. I took coaching certifications, educated myself on the nervous system, so much business strategy, way too much personal development. And still, the changes that I wanted in my life weren't sticking. And it wasn't that the information was wrong, it's that my subconscious just wasn't aligned with it. And hypnotherapy gave me a way to work with my brain instead of against it. So, when you're in a hypnotherapy session, just to be clear, you're not being controlled, you're not being manipulated, you won't do anything that you don't want to do, right? You're simply entering a different brain state, oftentimes a theta brainwave state. And this is where the brain becomes more receptive, more imaginative, and a little more flexible. And in that state, you get to experience what it would feel like to be regulated, nourished, supported, successful, safe. And the fascinating part, which has been studied extensively, is that the brain doesn't distinguish very well between what's being vividly imagined and what's physically experienced. And yes, this can work for you too if you don't necessarily see pictures in your brain. Now, there was a study done with pianists. One group practiced piano on a physical piano. Another group practiced only in their minds. The group that practiced mentally still showed measurable changes in brain activity and muscle engagement, actually pretty comparable to those who practiced with an actual piano. The brain learned, and that's what hypnotherapy does. It gives your nervous system evidence that a different way of being is possible, not just possible, actually safe, before you go live it in real life. So instead of forcing yourself to try harder, you start responding differently. You pause before reaching for the sugar or caffeine. You notice the gap. You make choices that feel supportive instead of punitive, not because you're more disciplined, whatever that means, but because your system feels safer to make a different choice. And when your nervous system feels safer, everything becomes easier to sustain.
Hey friend, real quick, I'm interrupting this episode to share something that's made a huge difference in my health and my ability to actually rest, which is kind of the foundation for everything we talk about here. Now, you've heard my story, and you probably know that I used to be a chronic insomniac. Like, my eyes were super tired, brain totally wired, body aching all the time, just laying there for hours wide awake, even though I was completely exhausted. And even when I did fall asleep, I'd wake up with that classic cortisol spike at 3 a.m. and couldn't fall back to sleep again. I honestly just thought that was how my body worked. But everything changed when I started using Swanwick blue light blocking glasses. I was in a program that emphasized 3 pillars of health, and sleep was one of those non-negotiables. And once I understood what blue light was doing to my nervous system and circadian rhythm, it made so much sense. So here's the science real quick. Blue light, especially from screens and overhead lighting, suppresses melatonin production. And it doesn't take much. Even small amounts of exposure after sunset can delay the release of melatonin by hours, making it so much harder to fall asleep and stay asleep. But that's just the beginning. That same disruption also affects your cortisol rhythm, your ability to regulate inflammation, your blood sugar, your digestion, and even your tissue repair. Now, you're a body worker, so you know sleep is when the real healing happens for you and your clients. So now I wear my Swanwick glasses every night starting at around 5 p.m., especially if I'm leading a Zoom call or working late, and the difference is wild. I fall asleep within 30 minutes of starting to read in bed, I sleep so much deeper, and I wake up with a lot less pain. And most importantly, I feel like me again. And just to take it a step further, I even swapped my bathroom light bulbs to their amber-toned bulbs so that my evening routine doesn't confuse my body into thinking it's midday. This is one of the easiest, most effective upgrades I've made to my nervous system regulation and overall healing. It's super low effort, high reward. Honestly, it kind of feels like cheating. So if you're someone who struggles with winding down, or you find yourself wired at night even though you're bone tired, give these a try. There's a link in the show notes to grab your own pair. Okay, back to the episode.
There's one more piece that I want to bring into this because it's often left out of conversations about health and burnout in our profession, and that's income. For me, stabilizing my income through various sources, fundamentally changed my ability to take care of my body. Not in some flashy, aspirational way, but in very practical ways. Having other sources of revenue in my business, from online offerings, hiring an efficient team, and building high-level client programs like I teach in the membership, opened up so much for me. I was able to work on fewer clients. I was able to sleep more. I was able to afford higher quality food. I was able to even hire a personal trainer and actually learn how to work out in a way that supported my body. I was able to access alternative healthcare practitioners when I needed support. And maybe most importantly, I had time. I had time to do the rest, time to move slowly, time to do all of the self care things I wanted to do. And when we talk about practitioner health without talking about income, we're missing a huge part of the picture. Because while there are systemic issues, access to healthy food, healthcare, education, massage therapy is also a profession where many of us can earn a living wage if we're supported in doing so sustainably. And I really wish newer practitioners in particular understood this. When you're young and still feeling okay, it can feel like you're fine pushing through, but that energy is borrowed. Those Sour Patch Kids that you're having as a snack in between sessions and all those energy drinks, they work for a little while and then the crash comes. This isn't about fear mongering. I just want to be really, really honest. Longevity in this career requires nourishment, and nourishment requires resources. And that's not greed, that's reality. So if you're listening to this and feeling seen, maybe you're realizing that your body hasn't been failing you, but signaling for support, I want you to know you are not alone. And you don't have to overhaul your life to start changing this. Inside the Sustainable Bodyworker membership, I've intentionally included things that don't look like traditional continuing education, but are actually some of the most necessary pieces for longevity in this profession. There's a nutrition masterclass that offers CE credit and teaches you how to feed yourself like the athlete you are, especially when you don't have normal meal breaks or predictable schedules like many of us. There's a sustainable self-care masterclass that reframes self-care away from long, unrealistic routines and into micro practices that actually fit into real life. Both of those have CE credit. There's also a growing hypnotherapy library designed specifically for body workers to help rewire the subconscious patterns that keep us stuck in self-abandonment, even when we know better. Right now, Founders Pricing makes it possible to explore all of that for the lowest price we've ever offered. And if that feels accessible to you, I would love to support you there. And if it doesn't, please just keep listening to the podcast, keep engaging with the community, keep showing up on Instagram and reaching out and connecting in the ways that you can. We'll keep putting this work out here because I really believe it matters. I don't want anyone leaving this episode feeling confronted or shamed if you've been struggling. I want you to feel seen and understood, and I want you to know that taking care of yourself and prioritizing yourself first isn't selfish. It's what allows everything else you care about to keep going. Your body is not the problem, it's the messenger, and you deserve to listen. Thank you so much for listening with me today. Let me know what you think, and I look forward to connecting with you in the next episode. Thanks for listening to The Sustainable Bodyworker. If something resonated for you today, grab your free breakthrough session, which includes a custom hypnotherapy track to help you unlock the next level. Grab it now with the link in the show notes. And to hear more, hit subscribe. I'll see you next time.